Disney's Cruella, the novelization. Chapter 24. Hellman Hall was busy. Every servant and member of the staff was running around, putting the final touches on the mansion to prepare for the gala. It was big, bold, and brasher than anything the Baroness had ever done. The Viking warrior theme had been her choice, a way to show her strength in times of war. From the food, the decor, Hellman Hall had been transformed into the manse of a warrior. And up in her room, the Baroness was getting dressed and prepped for battle. As John snapped at the staff, the Baroness was maneuvered into an outfit of her own design, a couture chainmail gown. Staring at her reflection, she smiled with satisfaction. She looked perfect, and once Cruella was taken care of, no one could ruin her night. When she saw John out of the corner of her eye, her smile faded slightly, replaced with a frown. "When I said, 'Take care of it,' all those years ago," she said, eyeing him in the mirror, "what did you think I meant?" John looked startled for a moment, but quickly composed himself. Clearly, he hadn't expected her to acknowledge the truth they both knew, that Cruella was her daughter. "I was a little confused," he said. "I hardly thought you wanted me to kill your only child." "And I thought we knew each other," she said, very disappointed. She had been informed that Cruella had not perished in the fire, and she was sure John had something to do with it. Once a savior, always a savior, she supposed. But it was no matter. She would be rid of the girl once and for all that night. She gestured to her head of security, and the big man approached. "She'll be here tonight. I want her caught before she's seen," the Baroness ordered. "Everyone thinks she's dead. She needs to be that way by the end of the night." The man nodded. "I have a special treat for her," he said. He reached down and pulled a stun gun from his utility belt. "It'll put a shock through her and leave her incapacitated." Like a child reaching for the toy, the Baroness took the stun gun. She turned it over in her hand, examining it, and then she stunned him. The huge man shouted and fell to the ground. She did it again, this time stunning a passing maid. "I could do this all day," she said happily. Then the smile disappeared as she was once again the serious Viking warrior. "Go and find her, you idiots," she said to the remaining guards, throwing them the stun gun. Stepping away from the mirror, she went to her dresser and slipped her dog whistle on her left wrist. "Why am I the only one who is competent?" she said, as John handed her the dog's leashes. "It must be tiring," the valet said. "It should be a memorable night, Baroness," he added, as they began to leave the room. The Baroness shot him a look. Indeed, it most certainly would be. It was time for the final battle to begin. Outside Hellman Hall, the guests had begun to arrive. As ordered, the massive security detail hired by the Baroness had their eyes peeled for anyone with black and white hair who matched Cruella's description. But there was a problem. Every woman who got out of every car had black and white hair. First one, then another arrived, each wearing a different gown but sporting a black and white wig. It was impossible to tell one from the other. They all looked like Cruella. In the security room, the guards watched on monitors, confused as they spotted Cruella on the east lawn, then in the ballroom, then in the rose garden. There were dozens of them. Security didn't know what to do. Pulling up in the DeVille, Jasper stopped in front of the doors. Looking around at the confusion unfolding, he had to smile. Cruella really had outdone herself this time. The party hadn't even started, and things were already out of control. Turning, he looked at Horace in the back seat. He, like all the other guests, was dressed as Cruella, down to the wig and a fake fur wrap. Nestled in the wrap was Wink. Buddy hid at his feet. Maneuvering himself awkwardly out of the car and stumbling a bit in his heels, Horace headed inside while Jasper parked the car. A few moments later, Jasper joined the throng of bodyguards frantically trying to find the real Cruella. He had replaced his valet uniform with a security guard uniform. As he made his way through the crowd, John appeared and slipped him an earpiece. All teams, he said into the piece. "Baroness requires everybody in the library, now!" "She's angry, boys." He smiled as the guards he could spot went instantly still and their faces paled. Then they all sprinted toward the mansion and headed inside. Jasper nodded, satisfied. A If things were going smoothly inside, Horace would be waiting for all the guards to file into the library. Once they were contained, he would shut the doors and lock them inside, leaving the mansion wide open for Cruella. He knew his job was to stay where he was, but a part of him really wanted to watch Horace give it to whoever dared go up against him. He could easily imagine them underestimating the portly Horace, especially in a dress. But Horace never ceased to surprise him, and he would do the same to the guards. By this point, Jasper guessed that Horace had locked them in, and was now meeting up with Artie for the next phase of the plan. Yes, he was sure of it. Now it was time for him to get in position. Sweeping down the long hallway, the Baroness made her way toward the grand ballroom. The Dalmatians followed her. "Time for my entrance, my dears," she said to the dogs. They whined and answered. Spotting Geoffrey up ahead, she gave him the briefest of nods as she brushed past him. Geoffrey ran to catch up. His breathing was shallow as he struggled to find his words. "Baroness!" he finally got out. "I was coming to—" The Baroness's steps slowed as she turned to look at the weaselly little man. "Is she here?" she asked. "Well," Geoffrey said. A look from the Baroness had him finish hurriedly. "That's the problem." The Baroness didn't wait for him to finish. Shoving him aside, she rushed toward the ballroom. Reaching the top of the stairs, she grabbed a glass of champagne from a tray and moved to position, ready to present herself to her adoring guests. But when she looked down into the room, she gasped in horror. She was staring at a sea of Cruellas. Every guest, male or female, was wearing a distinctive wig. It was her worst nightmare come to vivid, black and white life. Swallowing back the bile that rose in her throat, she lifted her glass. "Thank you all for coming," she said, thinking quickly about how to spin this in her favor. "What a great tribute to our dear friend," her voice took on a brittle edge, "who will never return, sadly." She raised her glass. "To Cruella!" Below her, the crowd burst into applause and tilted back their own glasses. The Baroness was furious, but she kept a smile plastered on her face as she descended the staircase and made her way through the crowd. Her eyes scanned every guest, looking beyond the wig to see if she could spot the real Cruella's face. While she didn't find her, she did see Anita Darling. The young woman had a smug look on her face, which only infuriated the Baroness even more. She had known that Anita was in on it. Her look just confirmed it. She stalked over and stopped inches from Anita. "Where is she?" the Baroness hissed. Anita shrugged. "She seems to be there," she pointed to a guest. "And there. I think she's everywhere." Biting back a scream, the Baroness turned her back on Anita. She would find the girl, and then she would make her pay.